Hi everyone, it's me Joe, and today I've decided to do a boy to girl tutorial in depth. One of my videos I've done on this channel before has been boy to girl, where I've shown you exactly why I do my makeup this kind of way. So I'm talking you through the stages and the differences between the male and female face shapes. It's not drag, it's very different, and this is the bare foundations of the look. So now you will go off and do a makeup look on top of this, or you could wear it as this is on its own. It's just my kind of talk through, my explanation and my viewpoint when it comes to proportion. So if you're new to my channel, subscribe right now. I'm going to go into detail about the face shapes, and I thought it'd be quite interesting to start. Firstly, this is what I look like when I do a boy face. Now, as you'll see when I shave, I have a very ambiguous looking face. Part of the reason behind that is because my face is naturally quite, I have no brow ridging, basically, which is something that men typically have. So what are the main differences between female and male faces? During male puberty, the face actually changes through testosterone. Testosterone actually transforms a lot of the features and make them more masculine, the skin texture, the proportion, the shapes of the features, the shapes of the hairline. So I'll talk you through that now. So basically, I would say the most common differences between a male face and a female face is based on the archetypal mask, which is what doctors understand the plan of the face kind of is. And the main 6 differences are: brows are growing forward. So from the profile, we have overhanging brows. So when people get feminization surgery, they actually get that actually pushed back or shaved down to give a flatter face and a more open face. Secondly, the eyes are narrower, they're not as wide. So a proportional trick is to make the eyes look bigger. They're also kind of, they look not smaller, but closer to the brow. And that can't just be fixed with a narrower brow or thinning your brows up with tweezing. This actually has to be fixed by repositioning the brow. Again, this is one thing, like my eye area is the feminine part of my face. This is the bit of my face which allows me to transform in all these tutorials, because I don't have traditional brow ridging as a male. I have very androgynous brow ridging and I have very androgynous eye space. So that's one of the things I've just been born with, which makes me very androgynous looking, but I want to point out that's not common in most guys' faces. Because of that, the brow position is different, which I've just mentioned, so that's another point. Now, because the lower portion of the face continues to grow, the nose becomes bigger because that's cartilage, it continues to grow. Traditionally, men have a more prominent nose. Even though the shapes aren't that different, the nose is a little bit more prominent. We also have a gap between the nose and the lips that becomes more prominent. We also have, we tend to have on guys, again, this is one of my things that I think makes me look a little bit more feminine, is I have quite full lips. And the softer and more fat we have in the face, the more feminine you look, which is again something that happens when male to female transsexual women, male to female trans women actually notice getting different or more of a fuller face during transition because men have less fat in their face. Finally, men have a longer jaw and a wider jaw because again this area grows further. So these are the things that actual plastic surgery people look at. These are things the actual surgeons look at when we're talking about face transformations and feminizations and vice versa, because these are the areas that are literally changing. Now we have other things like body things. We have taller, wider, our voice drops, we have a more cartilage on our voice box, things like that. But the face things we can control with makeup. Building on this actually applies through all ethnic backgrounds. So what's actually interesting, I wanted to say this, they've actually now proven through this test they actually use monkeys in. It sounds very cruel actually, but they basically put some sort of light detective sensor into the monkey's brain. So it was in the part of the brain that controls visual stimuli. It was part of some inferior cortex, I can't recall the name, I remember reading the study ages ago. But every time they would test the monkeys and see if they could differentiate between a female and a male, it would trigger in this area this light that fed back to the scientists. So what they actually saw through experimenting with the monkeys is that we learn gender differences in face shapes based on visual stimuli, which is why everyone has a very different kind of slightly different understanding of a male face and a female face. Some people recognize female in me whenever they see my videos, some people don't, and that's purely because what they've learned what female male is from visual stimuli. Probably why we're a little bit stupid when it comes to gender, to be honest, because we rely on the way we look before we rely on actually who we are behind it. But there is some science behind that. I wanted to point that out before I even get into the makeup, because it's very interesting, I think, to look at gender and look at face shapes and things. The final thing that I wanted to say before I start the tutorial is we are completely and utterly unique, and we're all very different looking people, and not one thing is more ideal or more beautiful than the other. I'm just doing this tutorial because I know how to trick the eye into playing with proportion. So from what I understand and what I recognise as the differences between male and female anatomical structure and the differences when we grow through puberty, and of course because there's 7 billion people on the planet, this is all going to be different for each individual person, but I can kind of play with the overall approach, and we do read the face as more of a holistic approach to it than actually just pinpointing and dissecting the face. We look at the overall proportion, not the individual features. So this makeup tutorial is designed on my kind of philosophy and understanding of that, and hopefully you like it, and hopefully it's fun and educational. But if you're new to my channel, subscribe, and definitely please enjoy the tutorial. Here is me as a boy before, or rather, here is me with a beard before, because I'm very, very ambiguous, and happily so. But yes, please enjoy the tutorial and let me know what you think in the comments below. Give me a thumbs up. I haven't got makeup on, as you guys can see. I wish I did. But I've been doing this for a long while. I've been trying to smooth my skin out and make it as flawless as possible, regardless of if I'm wearing makeup or not. And this is where I've kind of got to, and I have many skincare videos specifically about this on my channel, from acne to anti-aging now, so check them out. So now we have the skincare kind of out the way, we're going to go in with the makeup side of things now. So what I like to do is I like to reduce this gap, and we can overdraw the lips, or we can actually just use the nose and kind of try our best to make this gap smaller. We can keep this kind of area of the chin soft, so there's no dramatic contrast, so the chin actually kind of like disappears into the neck. And we also work with the eyes lifted and the shape of the forehead and the cheeks. Everything's about softening and shortening and widening at the top. So let's start with the foundation now. I'm going to be using MAC Studio Fix Fluid, and it's actually quite a good foundation for guys because it's thicker than the regular foundations that women wear, and we do need to wear a thicker foundation that stays on. Our face actually sweat more, so if you get thinner foundations and cheaper foundations, they will look great for 5 minutes and they will look shit afterwards. That's the real tea. So I'm using NW35, which is kind of like a tan middle skin tone for a pale person. And basically I like this foundation because it has a matte finish to it, which means all the textural areas in the chin and the face will be kind of softened slightly. So you know when we're painting walls and you get those horrible like textural walls, when you use like a shinier paint that's got like a pearl to it, you can often see the texture of the wall as opposed to a matte finish. So it works in the same way. So I'm going to stipple this onto the face, and I'm going to first focus on the areas that need the most coverage, so the beard. Some people will need to use a heavier coverage to cover a beard shadow, but I don't particularly think it will matter too much on camera for me today. We'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll change it in the beard area. You can use it thickly in areas that need it and blend out where we don't. So the reason I've gone a tan colour to start with is because we're going to actually build up highlights and contours on top. It's way easier to sculpt the face when you actually have a mid-tone to start with. It's like when you paint, you need a colour that's lighter and a colour that's darker, and sometimes when you're really pale, you can't go lighter. You have to go almost shinier to get the same effect. So I'm going to be using the same product, just a little bit lighter, just so we brighten and soften the inside of the face. So exactly the same product by MAC, but just a shade or two lighter, just through the centre of the face. This will really bring a softness that actually works like a glow. So we're just going to stipple this through the centre. In exactly the same way, I'm going to be using a darker colour just around the outside. Just kind of like a C, just like a 3, round the sides of the face. As we can see, this has really created a kind of 3-dimensional face. This is what people like Kim Kardashian do. This is the Instagram thing everyone does to create a 3D face. Now this is like how I do it. This isn't going to be natural, this isn't every day, but this does have an effect that effeminizes. So I'm going to be using Wide Awake Concealer by Sheer Miracle. It's a pink concealer. I'm using this because it really stands out and you can really use this to sculpt the face. So what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to take it just under the cheekbone here. And I'm going to start building into the cheekbone. So as you can see, I've kind of connected it to the lip in a soft kind of shape. It isn't harsh, it just creates more of, I guess you would say, a more, what's the word? It gives a soft dimension to the cheekbone without drawing them on. Okay, so now I'm going to go under, and I'm literally going to draw on a W kind of shape through here. I actually call this area the W zone because we have a W-shaped shadow under the lip, and this really brings out, this really stands out in male faces and thinner female faces because the less fat we have, the more prominent that area is, but it also highlights the chin area, so it's brilliant for effeminizing. Just don't take it to the extent of the chin because obviously we want to shorten that area. We don't want to make it look any bigger. So I'd never highlight the chin to the end. I think it always makes the face look more masculine, and for the same reason I don't do a harsh contour around the sides of the face. Even on the most masculine jaw, you will make your face look more masculine. It's like adding a brown line around a square. It's going to look more square. It's easier to soften that shape by basically blending it into the same color as the neck, and creating more of an illusion. Like, do you remember in the old days people used to use like white tea cloths on their laps when they took a photo because they knew that it would bounce under the chin and soften the face? Kind of works like that. You are softening the area by creating less contrast. So I think it works better. So I'm going to be going into the under eyes. So just as we would put our concealer all the way up. So we're really using the under eye, we're just brightening this area up really because we're adding more to this glow effect. So I'm using it right in the inner corner because we want to brighten that area just to make the area look cleaner. But what I tend to do now is I actually connect into the nose and I fan down because, again, what we tend to do when we're trying to feminize the face is make the nose look thinner. Now, women's noses look exactly the same as male noses. They're sometimes proportionally a little bit smaller, but women have different shaped noses as well. What I like to do instead of draw those brown lines that everyone seems to do on everyone's face to effeminize, I actually use the highlight, and I use the highlight against the nose. So as you can see now, what this is doing is it immediately makes the nose look narrow, but you're not adding like brown streaks to the nose. And do you know what the worst thing is as well, which always bugs me? No one ever tells you this when you do these tutorials. Those lines, if you don't have a straight nose in the start, and I don't have a straight nose, it does look straighter on camera. I've had a little bit of work to fix my nose because it was... But you can't do that nose contour to make your nose look thinner if your nose isn't straight, and men don't have straight noses genuinely. No one's got a perfect nose, but men tend to have a little bit more asymmetry than women because their faces grow more. So this works a lot better. And then as well as doing the top, I also work on the tip because I want my tip to look less bulbous, I guess you would say. So I use my nostril, you see that, as a guide, and I literally describe the tip by creating a contrast there. And then I kind of take that into the nostril, like so. So you can immediately see like the tip looks a little bit more narrow now because we've described it like that. And then just because I want to narrow the gap between my lip and the nose, I also take some down the septum, just that bit in the middle. Now we can take a little bit down the center of the nose just to really, so the nose doesn't look flat. As you can see, I've started blending out one side, and it starts, basically you just need to do this till you don't see any of the lines anymore. You want to have the definition in the areas we've created it, but we don't want to see these dramatic lines. So I stipple, you can use a beauty blender, but I prefer using a brush because they're more hygienic and you can wash them. If we zoom out, I think you guys can pretty much see the effect. Now, even though we see makeup, we're doing a makeup tutorial, we're creating a feminine kind of shape and proportion. Next thing I wanted to talk about is the eye to brow. Now, brows on men tend to be lower down because men have more prominent brow ridging from the profile. I'm a very rare exception to this, and this is pretty much the reason why I get away with my tutorials. I don't have prominent brow ridging at all. So most men have a lower overhanging brow, so their eyes appear to be less, I guess you would describe it as close to the eyebrows. They seem smaller overall in proportion. This space is very closed off. I have a lot of room under here, and these are my natural eyebrows, obviously. So if you wanted to take this seriously and really create a feminine illusion, then cover your brows up and redraw them in a higher position would open the eye area up so much more and create a feminine shape. So that would be my guideline to feminizing the eye shape, because it will make this area look wider, this area look flatter, and that's feminizing again. Now to set this through, all we need to do is actually use powders. I use loose powders all the time, but because I want to enhance this, I'm going to be using a white kind of translucent powder through the bright areas, and this is by Sheer and Miracle. I do like this powder. And I'm just going to apply that to the areas where I've used the highlight. So under the cheekbone, the chin, the nose, just kind of the center really. You can apply a heavy layer of this and it's referred to as cooking, but I don't do this because I don't like my face to look too powdery. I think it makes you look like you're wearing makeup, and I like a little bit of texture to show through. I'm going to be using Dermacolor set powder in the outside, just to, again, set everything, but just enhance that. I'm going to skip through the brows. All I'm going to be doing is using a foundation to actually sketch through the areas that I don't have much hair. And I've got tutorials all over my channel about that, and I've also got drawing on tutorials, so check them out in the links below. But it's not that important to the tutorial. It's just the makeup side of things that you can learn from my other videos. This is more about the actual face shape. Okay, so I want to add some more texture to the skin to make the skin look less like it's a lot of makeup, which is going to happen when we're wearing a lot of makeup. But I like these products that have, they're kind of like baked foundations that turn into these gorgeous powder products. They just create a sheen, and if you use a slightly damp brush, they really enhance the sheen. So I'm just going to apply a bronzer by Vivo in kind of the highlights and swirling through everything. Then I'm going to be using a highlight from my Gorgeous Cosmetics palette. It's their champagne colour. And just through the cheeks. You can also apply it through the high points of the nose and the brows and so forth. Now, I've drawn my brows on brown. They are a little bit harsher. I think I would have done them in a blonde. But I want to transform this after I've done this tutorial and go out. So I'm going to keep them a little bit darker. So with the eyes, we can do any makeup look we want, but the key that I kind of do to feminize the face is break up this shape so it looks bigger. So I'm going to be using that highlight colour through the brow bone. And again, if you have very masculine brow ridging, then you'll have to cover your brows up for this bit, because you will need more room, because it's more feminizing the more open this area is. So I'm just creating the highlights in the points. I want to put some on the lid, just again to divide it up. And then I'm just going to go through the kind of socket bone. And I'm just going to cut it right into the tear. I'm not going to join it into the nose contour. I'm going to cut it into the tear. So again, we're breaking up the shapes. It's not all connected. I mean, that looks great. It's a really nice makeup look when you use the socket and you draw it into the nose contour. But if we've got like a gap between the eye and the nose, it makes the space look wider, and it just looks really pretty. I like it. It makes you look more doll-like, I think. I mean, this is just one colour, and I'm just going to use my fingers to blend it out. It's not a complex makeup look. It's just enhancing. Obviously, darker skin tones will use darker colours. I should have said that, obviously. And the highlights would be more brighter and saturated, so more golden. Alright guys, well this is pretty much the bare minimum. Now you would go in and do your makeup look of your choice. Maybe wear a bold lip, maybe put some lashes on, maybe add some decorative makeup on. Also, I want to point out that there's more than just the face. There's also the hair. I'm wearing this crazy wig today because I have to go to a show after this. So I'm going to try and incorporate this into my getting ready with me. Well, my real time getting ready with me. Me getting ready with me. Obviously, it's not a natural colour, and if you guys want to achieve a natural result, you would find a more natural thing. But it's bigger than a girl's wig. That's the point, because your face is bigger. So you want to make it proportionally a little bit bigger. Not crazy drag, just a little bit bigger. Next on the list is waist cinching. Now, women have curvaceous shapes. So if you're bulky, what you do is you need to snatch the waist in and make a shape with something, whether it's hip pads, whether it's silicone, whatever. And like silicone pads, not silicone injections. that's the next step. I've got a breast contouring tutorial. I've got everything on this channel. You can check it out, and a variety of makeup looks. So I hope this was truly helpful. I really wanted to do a new version of this because my last video is nearly coming up to 1 million hits. So I thought, why not do a proper HD remake? And yeah. Alright guys, well, if you're new, subscribe to the channel. Please let me know if it helped, and I'll see you on my next video.